According to the Wall Street Journal, Americans feel bad about the economy. Americans are increasingly pessimistic about the economy, with consumer sentiment hitting its lowest point since 2022, at least according to the University of Michigan. This decline reflects growing concern about the future, although feelings of uncertainty do not always directly impact economic performance. However, when enough people feel anxious, they may cut back on spending, affecting businesses and the broader economy. Various surveys show that consumer and business confidence has significantly dropped in the first quarter of 2025, with factors like government policies and tariffs contributing to uncertainty. Despite some softening in economic data like retail, sales, industrial production, and jobs, the economy does not appear to be shrinking. However, economists are watching soft data for sign of a downturn. Notably, consumer spending has started to soften, with some people cutting back on vacations and other non-essential expenses. Economic forecasts for the first quarter GDP growth have been revised downwards, while sentiment often does not match actual spending behavior, such as during inflation spikes in 2022 when spending remained strong despite negative feeling. Current factors like slowed hiring and depleted pandemic saving are weakening consumer confidence. Historically, shifts in consumer sentiment have predicted economic trends, as seen during past crises. With unemployment still low, the labor market remains a crucial factor, though concern about job security have risen. Business leaders are also becoming more cautious, with some delaying expenses or freezing hiring. And now the most important point, which is the impact of these factors on the economy, will depend on whether these sentiments turn into real changes in consumer and business behavior. So what I wanted to do with you now is to check the performance of the Nasdaq 100 in the last 30 years. So what we have here is the performance on a quarterly basis of the Nasdaq 100 from 1995 till 2025. I've picked the number of time the second quarter of every year was negative. So the first time this happened was in 2000. The second quarter dropped down by 14%. The second time happens 2 years after that in 2002. Then the third time, 2006, and during the after the great financial crisis in 2010, 11, and 12, and then in 2016 and 2022. So we have in 30 years 8 times in which the second quarter was down. If we do some math here, we can find out the probability during the last 30 years that this will repeat the next quarter, which is very important question to be answered here. So we have 8 times 8 divided by 30 divided by 30, 0.26 times 100 to get in percent. So we have here a probability of 26% that the next quarter, which is the second quarter of this year, will be negative, which means the Nasdaq 100 will drop down the second quarter, 26%. So we have here a very almost low probability that the second quarter will be negative, which means on the other hand, we have a 73% probability that the next quarter will be positive in terms of performance of the Nasdaq 100. This is not really aligned with all the negative news, but from a probability point of view, from a pure mathematical and statistical point of view, we have a higher probability that the next quarter will be positive. I hope this video helps you to take a decision for the next quarter. For myself, I am considering this to put a long position for the next quarter for the Nasdaq 100. Thank you and see you next time.